Great morning, everyone. So the group 1 today we're gonna report the reason and impartiality and also the 7 steps of moral reasoning model. So our introduction for today, what does it mean to be impartial? How can reason aid us in giving impartial moral judgments? Minimum requirements of morality.
Reason and impartiality. Reason means using logic, facts, and clear thinking when making moral judgment. Using facts and logic to determine that a crime is wrong. While the impartiality means being fair and not favoring yourself or one person over another. Treating the criminal fairly according to the law regardless of whether they are a stranger or a close friends.
The next topic is about the impartial moral judgment. A moral judgment is when you say something right or wrong, good or bad. An impartial moral judgment means making that judgment fairly without bias, prejudice, or favoritism. It treats everyone's interest equally, not giving a special treatment to yourself, family, friends, or group. So in this topic, we all often make a moral judgments decision about whether something is right or wrong, good or bad. So para maging husto kag masaligan at rason, that judgment must be impartial. So impartiality buot sa lingon is amo na ang pagka-neutral gid, like a perfectly balanced scale and making a decision fairly without bias, prejudice, or favoritism. So at its states, the core idea is about treating everyone's interest equally. So you can't give a special treatment to yourself, family, friends, or group. So example of this is if ang isa ka teacher is nakita iya ka galingon nga bata nga nanga-cheat. So this an impartial moral judgment requires them to apply the same penalty would do to any other student. Judging the wrong action itself and not showing favoritism to their own family. So this commitment to fairness is essential kay ginapasigurado sini nga ang aton moral standards husto kag aplikar sa tanan.
7 steps of moral reasoning is first you gather the facts. Before we can make any moral or ethical decision, we first need to understand what's really going on. This step is about collecting complete, reliable, and accurate information about the situation. If we don't know all the facts, we might make a wrong or unfair judgment. Many misunderstandings happen because people decide too quickly without checking the truth. What to do in the step is first you collect accurate details from trusted sources. Next, you avoid assumptions, rumors, and bias. Ask questions like, what exactly happened? Who is involved? What evidence do I have? And what do I still need to find out? Example, if you hear that your classmate cheated on a test, don't immediately judge. First, find out what really happened. Maybe there was a misunderstanding or false accusation. You can make a good moral decision without knowing the truth. That's why the first step is always to gather the facts. The next step is to determine the ethical issues. Once you know the facts, the next step is to figure out what the real moral or ethical problem is. This means identifying what values or principles are in conflict in the situation. Sometimes it's not clear what makes a situation moral. Determining the ethical issue helps you understand what's really at stake. It is honesty, respect, fairness, or responsibility. What to do in this step is to identify the main moral problem, not just the surface issue. Recognize which values or virtues are clashing. Ask questions like what makes the situation right or wrong? Which values are being tested? Who might be hurt or helped by my decision? Example, imagine you saw your friend stealing friend from the canteen. The ethical issue could be, should I report my friend or protect them because they might be hungry? These steps help you see the moral conflict clearly before deciding what to do. In short, determining the ethical issues means identifying what kind of moral problem you are facing and what values are involved so you can handle it wisely.
So, good day, everyone. My assigned part is about identifying virtues and listing alternatives in moral reasoning. First, virtues are the good moral qualities or values that guide our decisions and action when we make ethical choices. These virtues help us stay fair and responsible. Some important virtues related to moral reasonings are: number one, honesty, telling the truth and being sincere. And number two, fairness, treating everyone equally without favoritism. And number three is compassion, understanding and caring about how others feel. Integrity, doing what is right even when no one is watching. And respect, considering the rights and dignity of others. And responsibility, owning the consequences of our actions. And last one is courage, standing up for what is right even it is difficult. So these virtues guide us in making decisions that are not biased and that considering everyone's involved. Next is listing alternatives means thinking of different courses of action when facing an ethical problem. Instead of acting immediately, we look at possible options and choose the most moral one. Some example of alternatives are: number one is doing nothing in action might cause more harm. Speaking up or reporting the issue to stop wrongdoing. And negotiating or compromising to lessen conflict between parties. And following rules or authority if it leads to fairness and order. And seeking help from a higher authority when the issue is serious. And acting privately to fix the problem without causing further damage. And by identifying virtues and listing alternatives, we use reason and impartiality to make decisions that are ethical and fair for everyone.
So the next one is the comparing alternatives with virtues principle. So the comparing alternatives with virtues and principle it involves evaluating different option based on how well they align with your ethical and moral standard. This approach ensure that your decisions are not only particular but also ethical sounds. The next one is to consider the consequence. The consider consequence, it means to think carefully about the potential results for effect of an action or decision before taking it. It involves evaluating both the positive and negative outcomes as well as the short-term and long-term impacts.
Consistency. First, choose the best option that respects values and consists the less harm. Second, accept that not all decisions are perfect. Sometimes we choose the less bad option. Third, ethical choices may still be difficult, but these should be backed by the reason and impartiality. For example, if you find a loose wallet, you might be tempted to keep it, but the best decision is to return it to the owner. It respects your values and causes no harm to others. Exceptions if institutes model. 1. Stop and think. Avoid giving rash answers. Use to prepare for thoughtful decision making. Stop and think before acting or answering. Take a moment to pause, don't rush. Think first helps you to make a better decision. Number two, clarify. Know your short term and long term aims. Ask you, what do I really want to achieve? Know you really want to achieve. Ask yourself what your short term and long term. This helps you stay focused and make the right decisions. Number three, determine the facts, collect accurate and reliable information. Check sources, reliability, and truthfulness. Number three, the correct and reliable information before deciding. Check if your sources are true, trustworthy, and making decisions based on facts. Avoid mistakes.
Joseph Sun Institute's model. Number 4, develop options. So, you need to get to school on time, develop options. You could wake up early, take a different routine, or ask a friend for a ride. Number 5, consider the consequences. So, for example, you are thinking of skipping class. Consider the consequences. Your grades might go down and your teacher might be upset. Number 6, choice. So, example, you choose to study hard for a test. You'd be proud if everyone knew because you're doing your best. And lastly, number 7, monitor and modify. So, example, you wake up early to get to school on time. Monitor how it goes. If you are too tired, modify your plan to get more sleep.
Hi everyone, now let's tackle about moral judgments. So moral judgments help us decide what is right or wrong in different situations. To make fair and reasonable moral decisions, we need to follow certain standards or criteria. This criteria that you can see here ensures that our judgments are logical, fair, fact-based, consistent, and useful in guiding our actions. The first criteria for moral judgments will be logical consistency, where moral judgments must be free from contradictions. Second, impartiality or fairness. Judgments must treat everyone equally without favoritism or bias. Third, based on facts. Moral judgments must be grounded on accurate and relevant information, not assumptions or false claims. Number 4 will be principle-based universality. A moral judgment should apply to all similar cases, not just one situation. And lastly will be practically or action guiding, where a good moral judgment should guide behavior and help us decide what to do. So in conclusion, we learned that making moral judgments is not just about knowing what is right or wrong, but it is also about understanding why and how we decide. By following these 5 criteria, we ensure that decisions are fair, reasonable, and guided by truth. When we practice logical thinking, fairness, and consistency, we not only make better moral choices, but also create a more just and responsible society. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Crispy, and for my part, I will be discussing about the moral courage. And it states here that most of us have the basic understanding of moral courage as the ability to take action for moral reasons despite the risk of adverse consequences. Courage is required to take action when one has doubts or fears about the consequences of such an act. The concept of courage, therefore, involves deliberation or careful thought. So in simple terms, moral courage is when you still choose to do the right thing, maski aware ka nga may possible nga danger or bad consequences nga matabo sa imo. And it is not an impulsive act because again, it requires careful thought and you really stand on what is right. Next here we have the conditions. We relate moral courage with our concept of courageous people as those who perform courageous acts. But we can raise the question, what makes an act courageous? Well, in James Donald Wallace's book, Virtues and Vices, that was published in 1986, he defines courageous acts by using 6 conditions. each of which is necessary and which taken together are sufficient to recognize an act as courageous. So, si James Donald Wallace nag-gives ang 6 ka conditions para matel natin if ang ara balang act is courageous gid man. And the first condition here is the person believes that it is dangerous to do the act. Meaning, aware ka gid mismo nga ang ara nga act is risky or delikado siya, hindi nga wala ang kabalo sa danger. And second, we have the person believes that doing the act is worth the risk that it involves. So, balay kabalo ka nga may possibility nga madulaan ka something, pero still, you think nga it's worth the risk for your moral values. And third, we have here, the person believes that it is possible for an individual to do or not to do the act. In here, dapat may choice ka. Hindi nga ginapilit ka lang or gina-pressure ka. You freely decide to do it. And in condition 4, the danger the person sees in doing the act is sufficiently formidable that most people would find it difficult in the circumstances to do it. So, ang meaning naman sini, ang act nga ginahimo mo is something nga most people hindi kaya. Pero ikaw, ginapangabudian mo Japon nga himuan because gusto mo maghimo sang sakto. And in condition 5, the person is not coerced into doing the act by threats of punishment. So in here, hindi niya matawag nga courage kung ginapilit ka lang. Dapat ya voluntary nga gusto mo gid himuan because you believe that it is right. And for 6, the person is under self-control, or at least in the sense of not being in a frenzy, stupor, or intoxication. Ang sa diri naman, dapat clear imo mind or calm ka. Hindi tungkol nga drunk ka or glain imo ulo or nagpangdupok lang. True courage comes from calm and clear decision making. And okay, we have here after analyzing the 6 conditions that were provided by Wallace, Mike W. Martin in Everyday Morality added another condition. The people at least believe that they were doing well and we admire them for their effort to pursue what is good. So, amo ni ang addition niya giad ni Mike Martin nga even if ang person may be wrong sa ila ginahimo nga act, as long as they believe that they are doing good and trying to pursue what is right, may moral courage gina sa Japon. Example sini is si Field Marshal Rommel. He fought bravely during World War II, pero para sa wrong side. But still, ginpati niya nga tama iya ginhimo as a soldier. So kung i-relate naman natin sa everyday life, ang example ya kung may cheating sa exam kag ikaw lang ya ang willing mag-report bisang kabalo ko nga ang mga classmates mo maglain ng buot. That's moral courage. Or kung may corruption kag hindi ka mag-upod bisan pressured ka, that's also moral courage. You're choosing to do what's right biskan risky. So, moral courage is not just about being brave, it's about making the right choice despite the danger, with self-control, free will, and the belief that you are doing good. So in conclusion, moral courage is about standing for what's right, maski hindi siya easy. Hindi tungod ginapilit ka, kundi or just because you only want to do kung ano ang sakto kag tuod sa imong moral values. That's all.
Today I will report about elements of moral courage. Moral courage means doing what is right even when it is hard or risky. There are 7 elements. First is dangerous act. It involves facing danger to stand for what is right. Second is worth the risk. The action may be risky but is done because it has a good purpose. Third is possible to do. The act can actually done, not impossible to achieve. Fourth is difficult but not easy. It's hard but it must be done for the sake of justice or truth. Fifth is not coerced. The person act freely, not forced by anyone. 6 is self-control. It shows discipline and calmness even through situations. And lastly, belief is in doing good. The action is guided by the belief that doing good is always the right thing. And that all in summary of moral courage is about choosing what is right even when it's not easy. That's it. Thank you.
Creative responsibility. It means responsibility is not only about obeying rules or preventing harm, but also about actively creating new, positive, and constructive ways to do good. Normally, responsibility means I followed the rules or I didn't hurt anyone. But creative responsibility says, what ha- what more can I do to improve this situation? Or how can I use these skills, ideas, or imaginations to make things better for others? Creative responsibility is ang pinakataas na level ng responsibility. Ginakumbay niya ang ethics, creativity, kag initiative. Instead of just reacting to problems, it actively seeks solutions and creates positive change. Key points of creative responsibility. One is a beyond obligation, doing more than what's required. For example, isa ka teacher, di ba, ang responsibility sa isa ka teacher is to teach lessons sa iyang advisory, Pero ang iyang gibra nag-teach siya og lesson in a creative way. Like, gayo siya og kung nagapag-game siya. Mga example sa ginamit niya nga kanang fun ang pag-eskwela. Muna siya ang example sa beyond obligation. Ang proactive naman, number 2 is acting before problem happens. For example, daghan o gipaobra nga mga schoolwork sa imuha. So, ang imuha obrahan og kanang humanon to nimo tanan para kung may incoming pa nga mga schoolworks nga ihatag sa imong teacher, dili na siya magdagdag sa imong problema. Muna siya ang example sa proactive. Number 3, innovative ethics. Finding new ways to be fair, kind, and compassionate. For example, isa mo ka healthcare facility. And then naay mga tawo nga dili ka adto dayon sa inyong healthcare facility. So ang inyong obrahon murag fundraising daw kamo ang moadto sa katong mga lagyo nga mga suok nga mga people para motabang sa ilahang health. The last one is responsibility with imagination, using creativity to balance human needs and principles. For example is katong nahitabo nga earthquake sa Cebu. Diba may kapanghatag o mga relief goods. Ikaw as a person, gusto man imo mohatag og relief goods. Then, responsibility with imagination, gahatag ka og relief goods and gaobra ka daw ka games or kanang program. Gaobra ka program para malesan ang ilang worry nga bisan sa kasubo malipay sila bisan kadali lang. Mauna siya ang pwede ma-example sa responsibility with imagination.
In conclusion, ethics guide us in making fair, consistent, and responsible decisions. Moral reasoning models like Scott's Ray 7-step model and the Joseph Sun Institute model. It helps us analyze issues, consider values, and choose the most ethical action. Impartial moral judgment ensures fairness by treating everyone equally. Moral courage is the strength to do what is right even when it is difficult or risky. Creative responsibility challenges us to go beyond duty, using imagination and initiative to create positive change. In the end, ethical decision making requires reason, impartiality, and courage, not only to avoid harm, but to actively promote good.